What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dobrunsky here, and today I'm going to be counting down what I think are the top 5 bases to roll the rumored Breath of the Dying in Diablo 2. Now, I just recently rolled this rumored live on stream. For those that don't know, I stream twice a week on Twitch. Link is, of course, in the description below, twitch.dobrunsky125. If you guys could give me a follow there, I would really appreciate it. Now, while this rumored is very expensive, a lot of people like to argue that it is inferior to Grief, and in most cases, yes it is, but it's still a really cool rumored that has a lot of useful attributes and style points for days. So I wanted to make this video to count down what I think are the top 5 bases and a couple useful builds for the particular bases that I will cover in this video. But guys, hope you enjoy this video. Let's jump in. So the first base that I want to take a look at is, of course, an Ethereal War Pike. This is a very interesting base for Breath of the Dying. It is really kind of the top tier damage option. Now, it's kind of limited in terms of its use, of course, in my opinion. I think the two kind of primary uses for a War Pike for Breath of the Dying is either for your Mercenary to stack as much damage as possible, which is commonly used for farming gold and Travangle. You just give this to the Mercenary, either use Leap or Warcry to stun the Council. The Mercenary hits hard and you stack a lot of gold fine to try and just farm massive amounts of gold over consecutive runs, or just using it on a Whirlwind Barbarian. Now, the only downside to using it on a Whirlwind Barb is that you don't get the maximum IS breakpoint, but you do tons of damage and a lot of style points. You can have, like, I think a 25,000k damage Whirlwind, which is very cool. Now, while it's a really cool base to use, I think it's somewhat limited in its options, really just a hard-hitting Barbarian or a hard-hitting Mercenary. So it's not my first choice, but definitely viable if you want to get a plus 1000k damage Breath of the Dying. The next base that I want to talk about is the Great Poleaxe. This is actually the base that I chose to roll my Breath of the Dying in. It is really the ultimate versatile base in my opinion. You can use it on a Whirlwind Barb, a Fury Druid, a hard-hitting Mercenary as well, and it hits the maximum IS breakpoint for a lot of those builds. So Whirlwind Barb it does. For a Fury Druid, it is the second fastest attacking weapon, with, of course, an upped Ribcracker with a Shell Rune, or Bariza with a Shell Rune. Those are all 5-frame attacking weapons for the Fury Druid. The only thing that is actually faster than that is an Ethereal Tomb Reaver with 2 Ruby Jewels of Fervor, which is next to impossible to find. But this does also do a lot of damage on a Mercenary, so it's really just the ultimate versatility weapon base in my opinion. Good for Fury Druid, good for Barbarian, and also works really well on a Mercenary. Base number 3 is an Ethereal Ghost Spirit. Now, it's kind of interesting because it is also a versatile base, but I did not choose it for basically the reason of it is not good for Fury Druid, and Fury Druid is one of my favorite characters to play. It doesn't quite hit the same breakpoint as the Great Poleaxe does, but the cool thing about a Ghost Spear is that it works really good for a Mercenary. Again, it's a hard-hitting weapon. Good for a Barbarian, hits the maximum IS breakpoint for Whirlwind, and it is also the very best in-slot choice for a Fenzon. So if that type of character is up your alley, a Breath of the Dying Ghost Spear might be the weapon for you. If you want to play a Fenzon, it will also work good on a Barbarian and a Mercenary, so definitely a viable choice. Just I kind of prefer the Fury Druid over the Fenzon, so that's why I went with the Great Poleaxe, but Ghost Spear is a really good base for a bot D. The next base is an Ethereal Beserker Axe. Now, this is a very interesting choice to roll the rumored Breath of the Dying in. It is really good on one hand and then kind of shitty on the other. So its pluses, it has really good range. Beserker Axe is actually the highest single-handed weapon damage base for Breath of the Dying in the game. And of course, you have all the other good attributes to Breath of the Dying, like your dual leech, your plus attributes, the minus target defense, the enhanced damage to undead. There's a lot of interesting components to Breath of the Dying, which you guys already know, but the kind of downside to making it a Beserker Axe is it works pretty good on a Zealer. Again, it pales in comparison to Grief, but if you're going to use it on a Barbarian, you're stuck having to wield a second Beserker Axe with something else because you can't split 40 points into Sword Mastery and 40 points into Axe Mastery. So you're kind of stuck with either rolling 2 Breath of the Dyings for a Whirlwind or a Frenzy Barb, or you're going to be stuck making Grief in a Beserker Axe to pair it with an Ethereal Bot D Beserker Axe. Now, I'm not a big fan of this because you have to repair the Grief in a Beserker Axe where you don't have to in a Phase Blade, so that's kind of the downside to rolling it in a Beserker Axe. It's really good for Zealer. It does work well for a Barb. Again, it's not as good as Grief, but if you're going to roll 1, you're probably going to end up rolling 2 because you're going to want to have a matching dual-handed runeword that's both axes for a Barbarian. And finally, the last base for my top 5 Breath of the Dying bases is, of course, the Ethereal Colossus Blade. This is the ultimate style points sword, in my opinion, for Barbarian. to roll this expensive rune word. Now it has kind of the advantages that we all talked about with like the extra range compared to Phase Blade and Grief, in its counterpart of a Beserker Axe, but the cool thing is you don't struggle with that 2 weapon mastery issue, so you can definitely roll a Grief and a Breath of the Dying in a Colossus Blade because you're going to be maxing sword mastery, so you get all the benefits of like the dual H, the extra range. A Grief on the other hand, so you're kind of running something different other than the standard kind of dual Grief. You don't kind of get torn into that having to use another powerful axe rune word to kind of pair with a Frenzy Barb. Now unfortunately this does not work really well with the Zealer. The cool thing of a Beserker Axe is one-handed, so you can pair it with a shield. You cannot use a Colossus Blade as a one-handed weapon on a Zealer, so you're gonna have to either run a really weird two-handed Zealer setup or basically just restricted to only using this for Whirlwind Barb. So it's really cool for style points. Again, it's not as good as Grief. I've said that a couple times in this video already. But it does have the advantage of you can wield another sword rumor that's a little bit cheaper to make, like Grief, and then of course just style points out the yin yang with the Colossus Blade. I think it's the coolest looking Breath of the Dying base in the game. Well guys, there you have it. That wraps up what I think is the top 5 bases to roll the rumored Breath of the Dying in. I think I kind of did a good spread of talking about max damage, versatility, and then uniqueness and style points. Now I did not include a Thundermaul. I know that people are going to go off in the comment section below. I don't think a Thundermaul is a good choice to roll the rumored Breath of the Dying. You can't use it on a mercenary. It is hard hitting damage, but it's just kind of horrible for breakpoints. I don't think you can hit the max breakpoint with anything. Now it is a lot of damage, but you also can't pair it with the mercenary. So if you really want max damage, go with War Pike because you can use it on an Act 2 mercenary as well as your characters. But a Thundermaul is kind of stuck to only using it for Fairy Druid, attacking slow, or kind of I guess a Barbarian, again attacking slow. Good for damage, but that's the reason why I did not include it in this video. But guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know in the comment section below if you think I got anything horribly wrong or missed some perfect base for Breath of the Dying. And as always, if you guys could throw a like on this video, share it, and even consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. I post new weekly content and also stream twice a week on Twitch. So a follow on Twitch and a sub on YouTube would be amazing. Other than that, guys, hope you have a fan-frickin-tastic day, and I'll catch you on my next video or live stream. Peace out.